Very warm welcome to all who have joined this webinar this evening. We hope that all of you would get an insight on how to kickstart your career in emerging technologies. Okay, so I would like to introduce to you our panelists, uh, Pranoy. He's our technical team lead, and Charush. He's our chief technical officer. Both of them are, how do I put it, hand in hand with emerging techs. Okay, and they are the go-to person for a lot of people around the world. When it comes to emerging technologies and existing technologies as such. So let's move on to a short presentation. So first, what I'll do is I'm going to share my screen. I have a very short presentation, which will help you understand, the context and the flow of where this is going. Okay, so give me a second. I will share my screen. Shall we wait a minute or so before we could commence once again, or what do you think? I don't want people to miss this webinar.
I think we can start, Roystone, given the time.
Okay, so this webinar is about how you can kickstart your career in emerging tech. We'll give you a brief about recent techs that people are talking about, etc., and maybe an insight on what these techs can do and how they are doing it. Okay, so let's start. So what's ahead? So now I'll give you a brief introduction, and this particular presentation will set the context for the entire panel discussion. Okay, so once this presentation is over, we'll move to a panel discussion, and once the panel discussion is over, we'll move to the audience Q&A session. Okay, so let's get started. So we are part of the Accubits family. Okay, and we have multiple divisions. We have Accubits Consulting, we have Accubits wherein we do product development and as well as solutions development. We have Ergonomics wherein we do business operations as well as development and support. And also we have Accubit Invent, where in the research, we have a lot of research and development happening. And we also work on biosemiconductors. So very brief introduction about ourselves. We are a product as well as a services based organization. And we have a very huge, vast global delivery network. We have about 12 locations around the world wherein we help deliver solutions to clients. See, we started way back in 2000. We became a private limited company in 2016, and the growth was tremendous. As you can see, in about 6 years, we have our offices in about 12 different locations around the world. We are about 600 plus, 650 plus, permanent employees, and as well as about 110 contract resources that are currently working with us. Okay. See, our aim, okay, the aim of Accubits is to, how do I put it, reduce dependency or human dependency on doing repetitive tasks, so as to free up the human mind, so that innovations, etc., can happen. So these inventions and innovations definitely will make this world a better place to live in. Think about if people's minds are free and they can concentrate on inventing the next big how do I put it, product or service or even a technology. think about if you have another, minds, like another like 10 minds, like, Dr. APJ or Elon Musk or Albert Einstein. This world, is going to be definitely a better place. And our aim, our core purpose here is to, leverage technology towards empowering, 7 billion creative minds, so that, this world will become a better place to live in. A lot of people say that this goal is very audacious, very tough, and it's nice. It's kind of almost impossible. But we like the challenge. Okay, we work and we live to challenge the status quo. Our strengths are we adapt, implement, learn very, very quickly, and therefore you can see this growth in this very short period of time. We have been recognized and rewarded for our efforts. The Economics Times has awarded us as one of the most promising blockchain how do I put it, promising brands of 21. And Frost & Sullivan has given us an award for the most promising blockchain development brand in the logistics industry. The Entrepreneur magazine 35 under 35, our CEO Jitin VG was selected in its 5th edition, for his leadership qualities and his proven excellence across different levels. Okay. So these are just few of the awards and recognitions that we have received. Okay, our core technology focus, even in our products as well as our services, are artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud computing, RPA, big data analysis, and DevOps. So these are our core technology focus. It doesn't mean that we do not focus on other technologies. Yes, we do have other technologies, but this is our core focus areas. This is us again, once again, Pranoy, who's our technical team lead, Charush S, our Chief Technical Officer, and myself, Roystone. I head the human resource function for Accubits Technologies. So, yes, now we move on to emerging tech trends. Okay, so we have a lot of talk, in general, about emerging things, emerging technologies, or emerging tech trends. First, we need to understand what does emerging tech, or what are emerging technologies? What does that mean? It means basically this: something that is new, whose potential whose potential is not being realized yet, and we have no we have a very less idea on what these technologies are capable of changing. Okay, so that these technologies, I mean, when you classify a technology as an emerging technology, these are the things that we need to look at. So you can see a couple of technologies that I've mentioned here, like AI, blockchain, Web3, quantum computing, robotics, Metaverse, etc. So these are trends, technological trends that are growing at a tremendous pace. It started off very small, and it's growing. It has grown to this point with a bang. Okay, and there are a lot more bangs that are in pipeline when you look at the market trends and the technology trends and adapting, and how the industry is adapting technology. Okay, so I'll just give you a brief introduction, or a brief on what these technologies are, in case you are just wanting to, or just curious, or have a very less idea on what these technologies are. So AI, when you talk about AI, artificial intelligence, okay, this technology, you can say, is how do I put it? It refers to a system, okay, that can perceive its environment, okay, and take actions to attain its goal. Okay, so any machine that can do these things can be said to be as an AI controlled machine, or an AI machine. Okay, so the technologies that are involved in this is you look at machine learning, NLP, computer vision, etc., etc., etc. So we, in our day-to-day lives, use AI knowingly or unknowingly. Okay, the best example would be your ever trusted Google search. And even better than that, a better example than that is your Netflix's recommendations. Okay, these are all AI powered, services that we are using on a regular basis. So AI is, when you look at AI, the growth, we ourselves can see that AI is almost everywhere. Okay, it can be as something as simple as your Google search or your Netflix recommendation to something as complex as a self-driving car. So yeah, that is the scope of AI and its related technologies. Now, when you're looking at the next technology, which is blockchain. Okay, so what is blockchain? When you look at blockchain, I mean, I'll just give a brief about each of these technologies. Okay, so blockchain is basically a peer-to-peer decentralized distributed ledger technology. Okay, this technology can, how do I put it, make a record of any digital asset. It can make a record of any digital asset, transparent, unchangeable, and it works. How to put it, without the best part, it works without any intermediary. Okay, this is attracting a lot of attention because this capability, it reduces a lot of risk and frauds, and it is very, very much scalable. At this point of time, if you look, a lot of BFSI industries are using AI to reduce their risk and to how do I put it, try to completely eliminate frauds happening. Okay, this is also used in the healthcare industry, education, as well as the e-commerce industry. Okay. Now, next, if I speak about the hyper automation. Basically, this technology is changing the way how we get work done. Okay, if you want me to explain it in 2 words, it's basically software robots. Okay, these are lines of code or pieces of code that are created to do repetitive low-level works like logging into an application, moving files, folders, extracting data, inserting data, maybe filling in a form, copying data from one location, moving it to another location, etc., etc., etc. It doesn't mean that they are capable of only doing this low-level work. Okay, they can also be set to do a high-level tasks and even perform cognitive processes like interpreting text, engaging in chats, etc. So these technologies are reducing the how do I put it, human dependencies and also the errors that can happen. When, for example, if I move a wrong file by mistake from one area to another, or if I upload a wrong file to my GitHub or whatever it is, there's going to be a lot of complications and that can arise because of this. Data security, unnecessary issues, reworks, etc., etc. So this particular hyper automation or automation reduces these risks and reduces the number of how do I put it, or the amount of human interaction that is necessary for these level of jobs, and increases the productivity. Okay, now I would like to talk about Web 3.0. Okay, now this is a very how do I put it, hot topic as of now. Okay, we all know about the Web 1.0, where there were only static pages and we were only consuming data, consuming information, and Web 2.0, wherein yes, there was a little bit of upgrade from there, wherein we were putting in we were creating data and putting in we were creating information and content and putting it on the internet. But there were hurdles. There were a lot of hurdles that these content creators or users were facing. So Web 3.0, okay, one of its primary advantage, okay, is its ability to enable a decentralized blockchain protocol. Okay, this would enable individuals, how do I put it, to connect to the internet, where they can own and properly be, how do I put it, remunerated for the content and for the data that they are putting in. Now, for example, if there is a very, I don't want to take any names of platforms at this point of time. Okay, there are, a lot of platforms available right now. Okay, very, very popular platforms. People spend a lot of time, effort, and even time, financial resources to put in content so that they can get recognized. What happens is, yes, sometimes those videos get monetized, sometimes they don't get monetized. Even in the case if those get monetized, okay, a major chunk of whatever revenue is generated is taken away by these, big so-called, corporations and platforms, and a very, it's a very small, percentage is, comes to the actual content creator who puts in, the entire effort and time and even financial resources. So what happens here with Web 3.0? This middle, how do I put it? This particular, the big corporations, they can be eliminated. Whatever, how do I put it? Content, whatever data, whatever effort has been put in by the content creator can be realized for what its actual worth is. Okay, there is no more, how do I put it, siphoning off of financial of money or revenue. Okay, Web 3.0 will enable or facilitate greater connectivity between various data sources. Okay, and what, as a result, this would take user experience to the very next level. Okay, so some technologies that that are used or for this Web 3.0 is like, usually, yes, you will have your, because basically it is again web, you will have your front end, back end technologies, and you will have blockchain as well as dApps, etc., etc. Okay. Now, now coming to quantum computing, why quantum computing? Quantum computing is something that is, how do I put it, is really needed at this point of time, because it can quicken a lot of things. It can do multiple, it can do processes that normal even supercomputers can't do. Okay, for example, drug discovery, or even speeding up the process of creating a vaccine for a pandemic or anything like that. Okay, so these things can be done only by a quantum computer. Okay, so we need more people to be concentrating in this particular technology, because this is an up and it's in this research phase and it's an up and coming technology. Okay, so next, when you talk about robotics, okay, robotics is technically a branch of engineering, which was very much, how do I put it, in the backlog for in the past, recent years, but has since come to the limelight. Okay, this particular area of engineering, it deals with the design, construction, operation, and application and usage of robots. Okay, we can if you want to know, if you want to define a robot, okay, a robot is a how do I put it, is a machine that carries out a sequence of actions without any support, usually without any support, that's independently, and it works to accomplish a goal or a task that normally a human does. Okay, now robots are being used in various industries. Healthcare, your home, your Roomba, that's a robot. Manufacturing, you have the robots who do assembly line work. Entertainment, space exploration, etc. And it's also the healthcare industry, they are looking at robots to do drug delivery. Instead of you're taking a tablet, these robots go into your body and they do precision drug delivery to affected parts. So that is the kind of growth that we are seeing in that particular industry. Now, next is the metaverse. Yes, this is something that people are talking about again fairly frequently on a lot of platforms that I see. Okay, metaverse basically is a 3D virtual space. It connects users in all aspects of their lives. Okay, it would also connect multiple platforms and multiple virtual spaces. Okay, the idea of the metaverse is that it will consist of a huge network, like a lot of 3D interactive worlds or these virtual spaces, and users would be able to move from one space to another, and they would be able to work, play, and do everything in between. Okay, so some of the technologies that are involved in this are AR, VR, 3D visualization, IoT, artificial intelligence, as well as blockchain. IoT, when it comes to, it's like the hardware part of it. Okay, so now, why you should upskill? Because one, it's cool. It's cool because you'll be the first. If you're the first, you'll definitely need the best, and you'll be different from the rest of the the pool out there. Because of that, you will have super high growth opportunities, and because again you are upskilled, you will be future proof. Meaning in the sense like we will know, okay, this is the technology that is up and coming, and we are ready for it. Okay. Now, this is just a brief, a peek into the, what is the projected growth for these technologies in the coming years. Okay, AI, blockchain, metaverse. You can see the growth that is being projected. Now, why is this? 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 have not yet been invented. It's because, like I told you, emerging techs, we are yet to fully understand their capability and what they are capable of, or what their abilities are. Okay, once those capabilities and abilities are found out, these jobs get created. Okay, careers were basically, how do I put it? You start in a particular technology, you grow in that particular technology, and you end in that particular technology. But right now, it is completely different. Okay, there is a lot of disruption when it comes to your employment, or your knowledge, or your area of employment. So this is where it is heading. Okay, so how it is going to be is, it's going to be complex. Okay, there are going to be multiple things that you will need to know. It is going to be fragmented. You will be doing different things or different pieces of different things at different times. You will be focused, niche focused. You will be focused on a particular technology. You will have to work with a group of how to put it, technologies, micro careers. You might be working as a blockchain developer for a couple of months. Then you'll be working as a 3D visualization or an AR VR or an artificial AI engineer. It's not going to be start with one technology, work that technology, and end in that technology. It's never going to be that. It's always going to be in bits and pieces. That is how we need to evolve, and that is how the market trend is. So now comes to the major part of it, which is the panel discussion as to how can you get started. Okay, so now I would there are a couple of things that when I was doing this working on this this particular webinar, as well as when I was I concentrate into recruitment and things. So when you talk to people, you come to understand there are certain trends that you see. Okay, because at one point of time, when we were recruiting for a niche technology, there were very few people, and then as time passed, a lot of people came into that pool, and it was okay. So what would I would say, like I would ask the panel, how can one build a career, okay, in AI, and what are the opportunities are there in the AI domain, apart from these, even if you can, explain to us, even if it's with these technologies or even, apart from these technologies, but for the AI domain, okay, what do you think are the career or growth opportunities? I think Charush would be the best person to take this on.
Great. Thanks, Roystone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So thanks, Roystone, for the question. So if I understand correctly, the question is, how do I get started in AI?
Yes.
Right? Depending on whichever domain that you put. So if I have to give a very, start with, AI is kind of a multifaceted or a multi-domain uh, vertical where it is not just probably computer science or mathematics or just coding, if I have to put it, right? Wherever we deploy this application, right? Let's just say AI in healthcare or AI in content creation, AI in content delivery, or whichever industry, construction, wherever that we are using AI, it is more of a multi-domain factor. So the first thing is you need to have a little bit of curiosity, right, in terms of how things are working, how I can make it more efficient and things. So that will get us a drive on understanding how I can use my technology to build or implement AI of that sort. So that's a general thumb rule that you need, right? Other than that, coming to, let's just say you're already a developer. I'm assuming that whoever's joined is doing something in a tech domain or is part of development and things. So whichever vertical that you're working on, let's just say it's front end or back end or DevOps, whichever it is, identify like how it is easy to get started is identify an area where you think certain things are manual and can be automated, right? And use the existing technologies to solve that problem. I'll give you an example. Like very simple example is if you're working on front end, right? So in front end, there is something called as the night mode and stuff, right? When you are there's a bright mode, then when there's an option to change to dark mode. So when you're changing to dark mode, your font color, your spacing, or certain elements need to change depending on your background, right? That is kind of hard coded. Right? What if I can do it more in a intelligent way? Can I use AI or an machine learning to make sure that these things are dynamic? Right? Identifying certain small use cases around what you're actually currently working and start building on top of it. So this is a reverse approach. Like ideally, people, there are different thought process. Ideally, people recommend understanding the basics, working on it, then doing it. So that is one approach. I prefer doing something and then learning through the process because that is more interesting and would you can see the progress in that domain. So how to build a career, I would say first pick up a use case or something that you're currently working on and use the existing technology that you're in. For example, in front end, you can use JavaScript. In back end, whichever stack that you're in, JavaScript or Python or let's say Golang or Java, everything has an ML kit or an ML library that you can use to develop models. So use the current technology that you're in, pick up a use case and start developing on it. That will give you an idea of which vertical that you're interested in and how you can progress in it. Right? That is a starting point. Then you focus on open source projects, right? Start collaborating in or implementing open source projects. Then when you're implementing and try to understand what is the math or how it is working. Again, the curiosity comes in, how this thing is working. Understand from there, and then try to post or create projects of your own on open source. Be open source enthusiast, publish your projects, and once you start doing it, you'll start engaging with the community who are all working collaboratively, and that's how you gradually progress. And then opportunities will come your way. It's you might not have to again go searching for it, depending on your projects, depending on your content that you're putting out. Right, opportunities will come to you. So that's how I would recommend. If somebody asks me, I would recommend how to build certain career in AI. I'm not giving any particular course or anything. Like this can be achieved to multiple ways. You can choose any courses from Udemy or Coursera or wherever it is, or you can go through certain YouTube videos, which starting from Andrew and G or like wherever it is, and that choose these repositories which are out there and consume from there, and start from a smaller project, contribute to open source, collaborate in open source, start interacting in community, and then start publishing projects on top of it. So that's how you start to learn, and then people will like basically get more exposure in this domain, and then go about finding a career in that particular niche. I would not ever recommend having a certification. Like that's not something that I would do, because certification, yes, you'll get it, but it doesn't give you a hands-on experience or anything of that sort. So that's not something that we also promote. It's basically your contribution in open source is what we look at. So that's what I would recommend.
Good. So you're saying like basically go there to get your hands dirty and then earn your badge. So that's the way I think everyone for any tech we should be doing that.
Yes. Yeah. Again, from how the interview process or like how hiring has changed, right? Ideally, it was used to start from a resume, then your experience certificates, your whatever recommendations or reference letters. That's how it used to be actually. Right now, if you have a good GitHub profile, that's
enough.
More than enough for you to get hired. You don't need a CV, not even a CV or a certificate or graduate certificate. So work on that. That will give you more results.
Good, thanks. So again, so coming to the the blockchain and the Web 3.0, what career opportunities are there? I think Pranoy would be the best person for this. What kind of career opportunities are you looking at? These particular technologies, especially when you're talking about the Web 3.0.
So to answer the question, it's like Web 3.0 is a whole ecosystem of products. So we have gaming happening, we have metaverses happening. So all of these, activities are taking part on top of it. And Web3 moves at a very fast pace when it comes in terms of innovation. So you look into Web3 gaming, there are Web3 Unity developers. So again, that's a niche. Okay, so you have two technologies coming together, that being the Unity side of things. And then if the developer also knows how to interact with these smart contracts, then that is a Web3 specialization for a Unity developer. So specialization like that would come into the picture when you're working with Web3. Same thing goes for a front-end developer also. You can, if you are a front-end developer, if you know how to interact with smart contracts, if you're familiar with libraries like Ether.js and Web3.js, then that kind of puts you on the boat on, that kind of gives you that added skill set to work on Web3. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And other than that, even it doesn't stop there. Like anything that has got, even for we've seen a massive influx of artists, even all across Kerala, all across the world, digitizing their artwork and minting it as an NFT and then profiting off of it, right? So that has brought new career opportunities to existing artists also. So even people that are not completely within the so-called tech ecosystem can actually utilize Web3 and build a career out of it. And earlier in the slides itself, you mentioned that 85% of the jobs are yet to be invented. Yeah, it's the same thing for Web3. We've just seen the initial wave of NFTs that has come through. And in the future, there is a lot more that is coming up. So Facebook will be coming up with Meta. Once Meta is launched, there's going to be a whole different need for metaverse specialist. Okay, so you might be a consultant in the real world, but you can actually transfer that into the metaverse. So you would have problems that exist in today's world. Say, for example, therapy and all of you would have a metaverse therapist specialist, stuff like that. So doctors and all of that. So yeah, so interesting use cases are being built on top of Web3, and once these use cases are built out, newer and better job opportunities are going to come out. So that's how I see this industry evolving.
That's good. But again, now something came to mind, like, are Web3 and the metaverse the same thing, or how does it work?
Okay, so the issue there is we need to first define the definition of a metaverse.
Yes.
So Facebook, I think the biggest misconception is when Facebook decided to rebrand them as Meta. So Meta is working on their own version of a metaverse. Now, to put everything in plain words, a metaverse is pretty much just a VR environment. So every company, so Meta is the VR environment of Facebook. Then Apple is building one. Microsoft is building one. Now, I would say Web3 is again one small component within a metaverse, because Web3 can be utilized to do things like prove digital ownership. Say if you are purchasing some land, so you have metaverse platforms like Decentraland, that enables you to buy pieces of virtual digital land. So you can actually use Web3 components there to purchase these assets. So Metaverse is different. Web3 is just a technology that enables a Metaverse. So things like payments, proof of ownership, and things like that that can be solved using Web3 based solutions that are already existing out there today.
Okay, and I see that there's a lot of talk, when it comes to blockchain, based technologies. Do you think these blockchain based technologies have a long life left, or are they going down? What is your take on that?
I do. I quite honestly believe that it is just the start of everything. So now we've seen the initial NFT wave that has taken the world by storm. So as of today, the NFT hype is dying down, but that brings into the picture of the next wave that is going to happen. That is a utilities-based wave. So what the utility of an NFT in particular would be things like ticketing. So you can have these events, right? So even the event that is happening right now, if all of the participants here got an NFT, that could act as an event ticket where they can come in and redeem that NFT to get access to this webinar, right? So utilities based on blockchain tech like NFTs, um, and it's a digital certification and so on and so forth are here to stay. And we've actually been working with the Kerala government on that front too, where we were we were digitizing the land record registry and things like that. So lot of the applications of blockchain is immense, because if you really look into it, if from a core, like a very basic technological perspective, it's nothing more than a distributed database. So the advantage that comes along with it is that we can store data as a ledger, and this ledger can be copied in multiple locations. So especially when it comes to an entity with multiple organizations, the issue of trust can be solved there. I mean, so that is a valid problem across multiple organizations in areas like land record registry for governments, supply chain management for enterprises, and so on and so forth. So we've seen a lot of development in these areas in the past couple of years, and even in the future too. Since on the advent of metaverse and everything coming into the picture, we'll be seeing more and more areas of development within Web3 and this whole ecosystem itself. Even this thing, your course certificates could be course NFTs, your college certificates. So in fact, India has one of the biggest problems in verifying the authenticity of certificates. So visa applications. So if colleges and universities adopt to a NFT-based standard, the whole visa application and verification of credentials becomes a lot easier. So yeah, I think it's the technology definitely has potential, and it's here to stay. That's my opinion on things.
That's very good to hear, because that will put a lot of people's doubts, to rest, and we can see a lot of growth, people adopting this technology, even more. So again, same question. Yes, Charush.
Yeah, no, I'm just adding, it's a relatively very new technology. If you see it, if you look at the Satoshi white paper to be the starting point, then it's hardly been like 10 or 12, 13 years, and 10 years for a technology is fairly less. So there is a lot to be discovered, rediscovered.
To put that in perspective, the first paper for AI was launched in 60s or 70s.
54, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, around 60. Yeah, more than 50 years. So 50 years. It's very new, and it's evolving very fast. So not even close to getting it to its full potential yet.
Okay. On that same note, what do you think about the growth of how metaverse will grow, and what can we expect based like the growth of metaverse? What are your thoughts on it? Do you have any?
Yeah. So my perspective is that it's going to take a couple of years, because it's like asking what would be the growth of the weather app on iPhones when iPhones didn't exist. The problem today is that in order for people to experience metaverse, they need a VR headset. So first, people move on from their phones to VR. So we're just waiting on that adoption first. But if you have actually really experienced Facebook's Horizon, or that is what they're calling their metaverse in VR, it it is actually very, very impressive. You can actually see your colleagues, or you can have a digital office, you can attend virtual events and things like that. Truly on the metaverse. So until it's not something that I can explain. So you really need to wear a Oculus headset and then experience that to actually and get an idea on what the potential of the technology holds. So I would definitely give it the next. I would say in the next 5 years you're going to see a lot more adoption, because Facebook is going to release their an updated version of Oculus. Microsoft already has HoloLens. Apple is rumored to be releasing their headset soon enough in the next Apple event. So all of the tech giants are invested heavily into this field. So I do believe that naturally the evolution of tech from mobile phones to VR headset could be the next big thing. So we're just betting on that.
Charush, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, adding on to what Pranoy said, right? Like it's how you interact with technology or digital space, the interface. We started off with, let's just say, desktops to laptop to phones. Now we have been stuck with mobile or screen-based interactions for quite long, and Metaverse is going to basically redefine your entire interfacing or experience that you have with the digital world, where you probably next 5-10 years you might be spending a lot more time in a virtual space compared to what you do in a real world, which gives you immense capabilities as well, right? Like in real world, certain things that you cannot do, probably you can do it in virtual space with much more ease and much more capability. So it's not going to be an exact. So there is another this misconception of it is going to be a replica of the real world, right? It is not. It is going to be much better version, I would say, and a whole different set of capabilities in it. Let's just simply taking collaboration, right? Like one example which Pranay mentioned about virtual office. How we are interacting in real office is not how we'll be in Metaverse. It will be completely a different experience how we are interacting. Let's just say you're designing something, you're developing something in the real world in the virtual world is going to be something very different. Again, experience that needs to be experienced to see how it will turn out. But the one point that I can say is it's here to stay, and it is going to be much larger than any of the disruptions that we have seen recently. Probably even bigger than the influence that blockchain had on the economy. Metaverse is going to be much more bigger because it's going to set a platform for a whole different level of interactions, experience, innovations, and things like that. So definitely it's going to stay, and it's going to get huge next few years.
So next, this thing, what do you think would be the skills and abilities that would be essential for any person who wants to venture into the development of these emerging technologies? Charush, and I both.
If you go to ask me, it's curiosity. So whenever this particular area of engineering is very new. So the biggest resources that you're going to find are pretty much the official documentation itself. So having the patience and curiosity to go through the documentation, to read through and understand. And maybe there would be some industry experts, so you can just reach out to them and actually ask them your query. So you can take the initiative and have that innate curiosity to explore and learn things by doing. And that is pretty much the only way, because this being so new, you're not going to find any courses or Udemy or any tutorials or blogs and such. So it's mostly learning, trying to figure things out and trying to do it, and trying to fail active, fail often, and then from your failures keep learning. That is the best advice I can give.
Okay, so let's pop in for a minute there are a couple of questions that have come up on our chat. So Jinto George, he wants to know what is the scope and demand of the RPA in the coming period, and what is the best RPA tool, and what is the career growth in RPA? So that's his question, one of his questions.
RPA or GCP?
Yeah. I think both. Two questions. Okay, so regarding RPA, of course, all the enterprises, right, have been incorporating RPA in their regular day-to-day workflows. I would say we are at a stage where at least about 70 to 80% of the enterprises are using RPA for some something or the other. Now there is an evolution or a change from normal RPA to a hyper automation, normal automation to a hyper automation, where it's nothing different. RPA with a little bit more intelligence to it, right? Like for example, RPA, if I take invoice processing is one of the common use cases where a document comes in, I scan it, and then I put it to some ERP system. So now it comes and understands what kind of invoice it does. It probably classifies the type of invoices, notifies the relevant people, a little bit more intelligence to it. So definitely automation is going to be there, because manual effort in doing this doesn't make sense to any organization or to anybody, right? A person sitting there and doing mundane things doesn't make sense. And people are going to automate things, and RPA is going to stay. It might evolve to a different stage. From normal RPA to hyper automation to probably a little bit more intrusive kind of an automation. Right now, automation is separate from, or it runs parallelly to what people are doing, right? Now it might take over a little bit more of responsibilities and things. Regarding the tool, I won't recommend any particular tool, because I've been working with 3 or 4, and each of them has its own positives and negatives. It's depending on the use case and depending on the business model that the enterprise or like whoever is going to use. So a lot of things would come in, not just functionality, the business model, the availability, support. A lot of things would come in choosing a particular tool. But tool is not I would say, a restriction. Like any requirement that you need, you can achieve through major 3-4 tools that are out there. You can achieve through any one of them. So I wouldn't recommend any particular tool. Career growth, as I said, yes, there is evolution happening. So it might not be just an RPA developer or a particular tool developer. You might be have to look into a little bit more elaborative part where you are more into process automation, identifying the ability to map out process and then convert it into an automation project and things like that. Definitely there is scope, and it will be there. Automation is going to be there till one single person is working on an organization. Automation is going to be there. Till everything is automated, there will be a career growth for RPA.
He has the same question for GCP in markets. Like, what is the career growth in Google Cloud comparing with other cloud technologies? So, Jinto George, it's the same. He's asking a question on that.
Yeah, I mean, GCP is investing a lot in AI, I would say, and AI-related services. But again, I wouldn't recommend restricting yourselves to a particular cloud or a particular provider or a particular tool, right? The focus should be on the baseline. For example, if you're discussing about GCP, the focus should be on cloud computing. How can you get better at cloud computing, and how can you get better at moving things to cloud and working with cloud, rather than sticking on to a particular tool? Because tools might come and go. Everybody will have their own version of a tool. Like if you take major 3 or 4 cloud providers, AWS, Azure, GCP, or let's just take which one, DigitalOcean or anything. Everybody will have a version of the same service in all of them, majority. Right? There'll be a little bit or a smaller services which are niche to a particular provider. But again, we should look at it from a technology perspective, like a cloud computing or a DevOps engineer kind of a role. Then I would recommend looking things from a broader perspective on cloud computing, or how to migrate from a on-premise to a cloud environment and things like that, rather than a tool or a provider. That's my thought. Pranay, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, you've nothing more to add. I've covered everything spot on then.
Good. We have another question. It's from Justin Sunny. So he says, I'm a research fellow working in the area of blockchain applications in supply chain management. We do work in the area of blockchain, but don't have excellent coding skills. For candidates like me, are there any job roles in blockchain technologies that do not require any coding skills?
Again, you need some sort of coding in one way or the other, right? So yeah, there could be probably a design or a process management kind of an activity, but if you have to truly be part of the tech, then like a development phase, then you'll have to be on, you need to know some sort of coding. The other aspect, there is a different aspect to it, which is on the modeling. When I say modeling, like a financial modeling, not on supply chain per se, but let's just say a DeFi ecosystem or a decentralized finance ecosystem, or a where we need a financial modeling of the services that you're providing. Building something like a tokenomics of a particular project, or probably defining the staking environment of a particular project. So that is financial modeling, right, of the DeFi ecosystem. So that sort of activities might be there. But if you're planning to develop something on a blockchain technology, then I would recommend having some sort of coding skills, at least not from a web development or something, probably a smart contract development, because you need to validate. Let's just say in supply chain, you have ensured a logic on how things works. But for you to actually suggest some improvements or something, you need to understand some sort of code. That's my thought process. But again, there is a different vertical on, let's just say in Metaverse also, there could be something like a modeler will from finance. There might be some sort of governance. There might be some sort of management things that we can do on blockchain. So that will be there. But if you want to work on technology, then a little bit of coding is kind of necessary. Again, my take.
Thanks, Sir. So before one question, like I mean, based on what you had mentioned and what Justin had asked, what advice would both of you, give the younger generation, those people who are aspiring to become, go into computer science, engineering, development, what techs would you ask them to have an eye on, and what techs would you ask them to say hone their skills on? Is there anything that you would like
to? So I'll take this one. So it's like, see, if I were a fresher and I was restarting my career, what I would tell a younger version of me is to actively join the tech communities. So if you're back in college, you might have remembered things like IEEE, then there is Tinker Hub, and a lot of these technology specific communities that go on. So the area of focus that I want to bring into the picture for niche tech is peer learning. So if you find yourself among a group of similar minded people, there is obviously these small niche of community that will have access to the latest and greatest tech in tech news that is happening out there. So once you understand that will actually help you guide, set your career in expectation with that. So say you meet a friend who is interested in NFTs and you learn about all of the applications about it, and then slowly once you are associated with these few techies that you met from these communities, you would tend to grow and learn and grow with them, basically. So that is one. Second is attend as many hackathons as possible. So coming from a purely computer science engineering perspective, the curriculum that we have even today is pretty much outdated. You're not gonna get much of an industry skills from there. So hackathons are a great way to get exposure to what are the main problem statements that is affecting the industry today. Then actually compete with other teams to have a realistic understanding on what your skill set currently is and where you stand among the peers, and then try to keep building it. So keep attending hackathons, keep failing, and sooner or later you would start winning hackathons. So having communities, attending hackathons, and attend workshops more and things like that, that will kind of hone your skills. And the technologies of focus that I would, again, that is more of a question that you need to ask yourself. Like, am I into design? So if you're into design, then I would say learn tools like Figma and Adobe XD and things like that. Learn concepts of UI UX, so that can help you transition your role into a designer, UI UX designer. So that can easily. So there are a lot of opportunities on that front. And then if you're into coding, then there's a lot of, again, that is again a wide spectrum of tech. Like, are you interested in the front end of applications, the back end of applications, or are you interested in data science? Or again, that's it's more of a question that you need to ask yourself, and then figure out your area of interest. Because if you're not interested in the topic that you're deciding to study, then there is it will not take you much. Because if you're interested in something, it will not feel like work to you. It's more of play. You're just playing around, doing things that makes you happy, and then progressing. So so just look into areas that interest you, and then find your peers, your peer community, and then focus more on peer learning. That would be my recommendation there.
So just couple of I can't say questions. Cherry Cherian has said that you have not mentioned cybersecurity in the age of AI and metaverse. It's a career by itself. And there's another anonymous person who has mentioned, like, I have 10 years experience as a designer in CAD modeling. How do I get myself to blend into the IT field? So any takes on that before we could wind up?
Yeah, answering to Cherry Cherian, absolutely. Cybersecurity is a career by itself, and for AI or for metaverse or even for blockchain, there is different aspects of cybersecurity that would come in. Definitely, that is an emerging and evolving career or industry by itself. So these stacks or the techs that we have mentioned is something that probably we have more hands-on on, like me and Pranoy, and so that's why we are more focusing on AI, blockchain, and then metaverse piece. Cybersecurity, I absolutely agree. That's again a major career by itself. Again, blockchain, smart contracts, auditing smart contracts. Anywhere there is finance and money involved, there needs to be security high. Like there'll be chances of breach, and there will be chances of data security and privacy that is needed. And cybersecurity by itself, yes, would ensure that. And regarding the other question, again, start small, like pick a piece which you think is interesting to you, right? Like if it is CAD modeling, then Unity or a 3D modeling is something that might be of interest to you. I don't know. Again, I'm just given the background I'm suggesting. So that could be something that you can pick up and then see what are the opportunities are in that particular vertical that you can look into. Metaverse could be an ideal option. Again, but if blockchain is something that interests you, pick a small piece, try to build something around it, and in the process, learn how to do it, I would say. So that's again, that's what from my side.
I don't see any more questions coming up from the audience. So I think maybe one last question. I see, based on what we are given, what type of questions we are seeing here, what advice would you give developers to stay current with emerging tech or trends, emerging tech trends? What advice for developers?
What I would do is see, if you really think about it, our social media is one of the biggest applications of AI. So we have all of these recommendations running 24/7, designed by the best AI engineers in the world. So if you actually follow these areas of technologies, if you're a front-end developer, follow things like people who share about React content, people who share other front-end technologies. So there are these influencers. So mold your social feed according to interesting and innovative technologies that are being shared by these so-called developers themselves. So that would actually give you an idea on the new and upcoming trends, the new and upcoming technologies, what people are using. So that itself can help you gain a lot of knowledge. Maybe in a couple of years' time, if you do this, then the knowledge that you can gain from such a small activities is immense. So that would be one. Then second is, again, coming back to the importance of GitHub, actively look into, say if you say you just learned a new technology like React, and you found this cool project on GitHub that is again for using the same technology, and maybe you see a couple of functions that you can rewrite in a more efficient manner. Just raise a pull request and then see how that goes. Like, don't be afraid of them rejecting a pull request and stuff. So take risks, try to contribute to open source, and with that you would learn on the new things that are coming up, and basically keep yourself updated. And again, then there are also a lot of news channels like TechCrunch, Product Hunt, Y Combinator News, and things like that you can actively use to keep yourself updated. And yeah, it's and also a lot of YouTubers recently, like Fireship, Traversy Media. If you're a developer that watches a lot of tutorials and all of these names would be pretty common. So following these specific YouTube channels will also help, because they always push the very interesting content in their channels. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So I don't think there are any more questions as of now, right? I'll take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you. Thank you, Charush, Pranoy, for taking the time off to, help, people understand what emerging techs are and how to get their hands into it. Thank you so much, Pranoy, Charush. And thank you to, this KLIT for, hosting or giving us the opportunity to help, the entire, nation grow as such. Thanks everyone. Thanks.